What's up, you guys? My name is Liz. I am a postgrad student here at the University of Glasgow, and today I'm going to be talking to you about how I found my accommodation when I moved here from a different country and I did not have a place to live. This video is meant to help anyone who's moving to Glasgow, especially for school, but particularly those of you who might be coming from foreign countries, say the US, where I'm from. I did not know any of this going into my accommodation search, so hopefully what I'm telling you today will be helpful information. I think it's information that you need to know. First thing to know is that there are 3 different types of accommodation that you can be looking for. There's uni accommodation, private halls, and private flat accommodation. And there are pros and cons to all of these options, and the prices can vary pretty widely. Student halls obviously are going to come with a built-in network of people, of other students, whereas a private flat offers a lot more privacy. As a more mature student myself, I decided to steer clear of the halls, just get myself a flat, because I'm not just a postgrad, I also took 3 years off in between undergrad and postgrad. So I'm just a bit removed from a lot of the people staying in halls, but if you're coming here as an undergrad or fresh out of undergrad for postgrad, halls are not going to be a bad option for you. So if you're coming from abroad, there are a few other things that you're going to want to consider beyond just whether or not you want that built-in network, and student halls are definitely the easiest way to get around all of those other concerns and obstacles to renting here. If you're gonna go for uni accommodation, the uni halls, apply as soon as you possibly can because they do fill up fast. Generally speaking, they're going to be the lowest cost accommodation, and they're also going to provide you with a network of other Glasgow uni students. The private halls will have students from all of the other universities in Glasgow as well, but obviously the Glasgow uni halls are reserved for Glasgow uni students. But they do tend to fill up pretty quickly, so apply as soon as possible if that's what you want to do. Now, like I said, the uni halls are going to be the most cost effective, but there are plenty of other private halls around the city that you can also opt to live in. They are not going to be all that much more expensive. You are still going to get your built-in community, and it's going to be maybe a little bit more diverse. You'll get students from Strathclyde, Glasgow Caledonian, potentially the Royal Conservatory. And I believe the tenancies for private halls are a bit longer than those for the uni halls. If you're living in a uni hall, you will be restricted to term time living, whereas I think most of the private halls offer full 51-week leases, which means if you are coming from abroad, you're not going to have to worry about finding another place to live while you're still here on your visa, but not necessarily in term time. Alright, so I'm about to give you some of the inside scoop, some tips and tricks on finding private accommodation here in Glasgow, but before I do that, I just wanted to give you a brief little tour, just an idea of what you might be able to expect if you're going for private accommodation. I currently live in a privately owned flat. I'm not in student accommodation, so my flat is pretty standard, and this is just sort of what you can expect. So we've got our little entryway here, and the entryway and the bedrooms are carpeted, which is fantastic for insulation. Bathroom is just off to the left of the hallway, and it's bigger than it looks. It is a lot more spacious than it looks. We also have our kitchen, again, narrow but bigger than it looks. There's 2 of us living here, and this kitchen is very, very comfortable for the 2 of us. Then over here we've got my room, which is a lot bigger than I think is probably standard, but these windows here, especially if you're going to be living in a bed sit or a tenement, these windows are standard. You're going to get these huge tall ceilings. I love those. That's like my favorite thing about this apartment. And then we've got our living room with our big window overlooking the park. Big living room. Hello. And our living room did come pre-furnished, so we didn't have to worry about any of this, but yeah, that is the scoop. Now, there are quite a few obstacles to finding a private flat that you're just not going to have to deal with if you opt for halls. But if you're like me and you really don't want to be in halls again, there are plenty of ways to get around those obstacles and find private accommodation. Case in point. And in addition to being a slightly more grown-up option for students who maybe don't want to be in that hall type of environment anymore, leases in Glasgow are very renter friendly. So that's nice. but you have to get the lease. That's the kicker. That's the key. Now, the first thing to keep in mind is to do your best to avoid letting agencies. If you're a UK citizen, this isn't going to be a problem, but if you're coming from abroad, if you don't have UK citizenship and you don't have a Scottish resident to co-sign for you, it's highly unlikely that you're going to get approved by a letting agency as a renter. In most cases, you'll either need a Scottish resident to co-sign, or you'll need to make a deal with your landlord and letting agent to pay a larger sum up front. So for example, paying an entire year's worth of rent in one go, or another common one I know is paying 4 months of rent at a time instead of 1 month. And this is something that I had to do in order to secure my lease, but not everyone has and was fortunately able to do, but not everybody has that kind of financial ability. So do your best to avoid letting agencies. If you're looking online for a flat, you do best to start with Gumtree and Spare Room. Gumtree is like the UK version of Craigslist, and it can be difficult to get people to respond on Gumtree, in my experience at least, but you do have the option of deselecting properties that are listed by agencies so that you can avoid letting agencies altogether. Go straight to the landlord. In my experience, Spare Room had a much higher response rate, and that is actually how I found this flat, but it can be a lot harder to weed out those properties represented by letting agencies. Again, case in point. And tip number 2 is to try to find a flat with other students. And trust me, there are plenty of other students that don't want to be in halls, plenty of students who already live here, who maybe someone has graduated and moved out and they just have this one room up for rent. And if your flat is occupied by only students, you will be completely exempt from paying council tax. In fact, most students advertising spare rooms on Gumtree or Spare Room will specify that they are looking for another student. They do not want a working professional because they want to avoid that council tax. And my last tip is going to be actually the same as my first tip, which is to start early. Start your search as early as you can, especially if you're coming from abroad. Student halls fill up very, very fast, and private accommodation can be very difficult to find. It can take a long time to find it, and even once you found it, it can take a long time to secure it. My accommodation, just securing this flat once I had an agreement with my flatmate, took a month and a half to actually get it worked out with the letting agency. So start early, start as soon as you possibly can, and then get your butt to Glasgow because it's amazing. So good luck in your home hunting, flat hunting, hall hunting, and thanks again for watching, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Bye!